What's up, everybody? Jeff Sintel, DogNation.com. Back from holiday, back from vacation, and wow, as the headlines all say, maybe. I know people expect media folks to be very extravagant, over the top, maybe some with some recency bias or whatever. But I got to say, the month of July, at least a non-signing day month, like a non-December, a non-February. Probably this has been the wildest, the craziest month of UGA recruiting I've covered. Can't remember the highs and the lows. Obviously, the high of today, the high of the month of July, actually. I think the scoreboard says 7 commitments in the month of July. First of all, folks, think about that. There's really only going to be about 28 commitments in the class. So, really, a quarter of all the commitments, they just happened in this month. Georgia will probably end up with that 28 commitment signees this year, and they just happened this month. So crazy to talk about. Of course, that's the high. This is a good way to look at it right here. We try to keep up with everything we're doing here. We're doing a busy July for football recruiting. Let's kind of recap it so far. Some of the names you remember, some of the names you don't. Daniel Harris on July the 1st chose Georgia. His rankings keep going up. Raquez McElderry, he chose Alabama. Actually decommitted from Georgia, flipped basically the next day. Deshaun Womack, remember that name from about 3 or 4 months ago? He took an official visit to Georgia. He chose LSU. Malik Benson, we have him, junior college, number 1 junior college prospect in the country. He chose Bama. Catching a theme here, guys. Carr in 2024. He chose Georgia. That's a top 10 wide receiver, number 100 overall recruit. Shamarad Umarov, I don't really know how much Georgia was after him, but he did take an official visit to Athens. He chose Tennessee. Jaden Wayne, everybody remembers that. Jaden Wayne, he committed to Miami. Madden Sanker in funny guys. I like the comments about how I'm sounding, how I'm nasally or whatever. Got a new mic to talk about here, though. Madden Sanker, Louisville, in-state Georgia lineman. Dylan Lonergan out of another quarterback, chose Alabama. And then this is when, it's always happening here. It's always going. You've got Troy Bowles, chose Georgia. Justice Haynes, a big surprise there. He chose Alabama. Jamaal Jarrett chose Georgia. Kelton Smith chose Georgia. Olas Alinen chose Bama. Fast and Furious here, July 23rd. Jonel Aguero, he chose Georgia. Caleb Downs today chose Alabama. Yazid Haynes, the 4.39 speedster, he chose Georgia. Former Penn State commitment, former Rutgers commitment. And then finally, Malik Bryant. You guys remember that name, Malik Bryant? Out of Florida. He chose Miami. That was a name about a year ago. If you'd have asked me, do I think Georgia was going to sign Malik Bryant, I would have said probably kind of highly likely. That was a guy that prior to some, 2022 evaluation that was pretty high on Georgia's board. At one time, he was the number 1 linebacker in the country. Speaking of some great news, speaking of some amazing news, what I'm going to do with today's show is, a lot has happened. We're going to talk about Caleb Downs. We're going to talk about Justice Haynes. Got to remember one thing, though. You got to remember, if you've been on a boat, if you've been away, this month of July is crazy because Georgia, at the beginning of our last show, which was July the 13th, Georgia was the number 9 class in the country, and now they're number 3 in the country. That's how much 6 or 7 commitments will mean. Perhaps the biggest of those, got to start with Jamaal Jarrett. I don't know if you saw this, but we went up to North Carolina prior to his commitment, and we did a commitment letter. Check this out right now.
Dear Dog Nation, I made my commitment today. It was a special day and also my birthday. Birthdays are about growth. Growth and development were what was on my mind as I made my college decision known a few minutes ago. I try to be a great person, a great role model, and a great leader. I work hard and always want to work hard, and I surround myself with great people. Anybody that helps support me is going to help me in the long run to become a better person, a better friend, and a better athlete, a better family member, and a family man as well. Almost 35 college programs gave me a full ride scholarship. It was a lot of schools, especially the in-state schools like the University of North Carolina. Just telling them I won't be attending their college was really hard for me. You build so many great relationships with these schools and you can only pick one at the end of the day. The development portion was key for me here with Georgia. I believe you can go to the NFL out of anywhere in any school. I feel like the development part that Georgia has right now is leading in the nation. Having great coaches around you, and they keep pushing you to be great. The league is always going to be there for a great player, but Georgia prepares you differently right now for the league. They are leading it. Just seeing how they developed Devontae White and how many players they had developed for the NFL is a lot. On my previous visits, I saw the before and after clips of some of their players. They developed so much over a short amount of time, and now they're NFL superstars. It was amazing seeing how they developed Devontae White in a short amount of time. Everyone knows about Jordan Davis. He's also been a great impact in my recruitment for Georgia as well. He's really cool with me and my family. That helped a lot in my decision. I really hope that I get developed to be the absolute best that I could be, not just as a student athlete, but as a man. I want to grow, and I believe I can be the best that I can be, and I believe Georgia can help me do that. I really hope that I get developed to the absolute best that I can be, not just as a student athlete, but as a man. I want to grow. I believe that I can be the best, and I believe Georgia can help me do that the best. My family and I sat down. We thought about just the way UGA handled things. They had everything. They had the coaching staff, the training staff, and the talent support. It was home, away from home. My family can see me getting better there. They can see me having fun there. And they can see the love that is there from the coaches. They know that I will be in great hands. I'm going to be nervous when I decide, but I know I'm ready for this. I've been ready to get this over with. Just letting the world know that I'm going to be a dog is a great feeling. Let's go to work. Sincerely, Jamaal Jarrett. I will be wearing number 55 on the field. Go Dogs.
We actually had a little bit more. I don't know, Michael, if you can run that back. There was a little bit more the end of that. I don't know if we can run it back to that part.
Dear Dog Nation, I made my commitment today. It was a special day and also my birthday.
I guess we can't play the whole thing back, but there was a really cool message he had at the end. He basically talked about a few things, but go to YouTube. You can find it if you're catching it on the channel. You can see that video on YouTube as well. Jamaal Jarrett, pretty interesting. One of the things I started putting together for this class when I got back from my vacation is I took a look at, folks, Georgia has 4 commitments inside the top 60, and those guys are all on defense. 9 out of the top 12 highest rated commitments in this class, they're all on defense. What the national championship and what the NFL display, the dominance, the 15 picks, the 5 first rounders, what it's done is it has reinforced Georgia as a defensive juggernaut. Now, the offensive players are not there yet. When you have a miss like Justice Haynes, when you have a miss like Arch Manning, that's going to happen. But you see the way Georgia's building its class, 9 out of its top 12 highest rated guys, defense. I think Bama, now 7 out of its top 11, 12 highest rated guys, those are on offense. So you see a way that Georgia's building the class, perhaps compared to the way Alabama builds the class. And folks, one of the things I looked at is Georgia brought together, this is a crazy stat. So basically between, man, I got my phone call. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? Getting a call. That's why I didn't silent my call. Lots of stuff going on here on dognation.com today. But let me tell you this. Georgia has signed 12 prospects, defensive prospects last cycle that were rated among the nation's top 180 overall recruits. 12. This year, they've already got 9. They'll probably end up with about 13. That's 25 elite defensive recruits in 2 years. Here's what's staggering. When you take year 1 Kirby, year 2 Kirby, year 3 Kirby, year 4 Kirby, year 5 Kirby, that is the 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20 recruiting classes. Georgia only signed 29 of those 29 of those in Kirby's first 5 classes, and Georgia's got probably going to end up with 25 or 26 in the last 2. What does that mean, folks? That means Georgia is going to choke slam and really snuff the life out of offenses. That is the game plan there. Some offensive recruits will come. There will add to this class. It's a big weekend of visits this weekend. We're going to get into that. Guys like Monroe Freeling will be in town. Xavier McLeod was in town today. Earlier this week, Jordan Big Baby Hall was in town. So a lot of the biggest fish remaining in the class, they're going to be in Georgia this week. This is one more week of visits this weekend until the dead period. Yazid Haynes, the newest commitment, is going to be in town. Guys like Raymond Cottrell, Raylan Wilson, a lot of the key core commits of the 2022 class are going to be in town in Athens this weekend for the cookout. You guys will remember that. Used to be the West End Zone reveal. It's the slip and slide weekend that Georgia does when they have those viral clips that come out where they soap up the practice field and everybody slips and slides around on trash bags. Should be a great weekend, a great couple of days of memories for the 2023 and the 2024 class as well. But everybody's going to talk about who they lost. Caleb Downs, special high school safety. I think I said this and caught a lot of attention on Twitter, but I think he is the most college-ready safety I've covered in my time as a recruiting analyst, recruiting reporter whatsoever. And the thing there, the only other name that comes to mind would have to be Kyle Hamilton. And the way I look at Caleb Downs is I say he's college ready. I think he'll start day 1 at Alabama. He might have started day 1 at Georgia. Checks every box, creates box to checks. He's smart. He's driven. His dad is a college coach. His uncle Dre Bly is the defensive backs coach at North Carolina. So definitely a prize prospect. He went to Alabama. I think he went to Alabama just because he thought that Alabama had more. Alabama was a more disciplined program. Alabama would develop him better. And that's really what it came down to. He said that he was going to go to the place that developed him the best on and off the field. And that was Alabama. And for folks, I know this is a Georgia show. Lots of folks over here like to bleed red and black. They wear the red colors. And I found myself answering this question a lot lately, but Alabama has been at this level for 10 years that Georgia just reached. And, I think I see G-Bama Boy in here. I think he's probably strutting like Ric Flair through the comment section right there. But you cannot spin it as anything but a big loss for Caleb Downs to Georgia. Caleb Downs to Alabama, and then also Justice Haynes to Alabama. Been told about, for a while now that everybody doesn't like the word package deals. Package deals kind of mean that somebody's getting a little bit of juice on their commitment edition because they're not as good as the other guy. These two guys are kind of like peanut butter and jelly. That's the way I've heard it described to me a lot. And they really sure wanted to play together. They really wanted this to find the very best options for their college future. And they weighted everything. They chopped it up. And Alabama came out on top there for both of them. Two biggest targets in the state of Georgia. In a national championship year, the same year that Georgia develops the safety into a first-round safety and is the defensive MVP of the national championship game, the top safety in the country, the number 1 player in the state of Georgia, he goes to Alabama. Same thing for Justice Haynes, folks. Those guys are tremendous football players, and they are going to be HE double hockey sticks. They're going to be heck to stop in the SEC championship game and in those playoff meetings between Georgia and Alabama in December and in January, because we know those are inevitable. One thing to think about with all that, though, is so good topic here. I want to know what you guys think about it. How does Georgia pay Bama back? How does Georgia even the odds or even the score or catch up? Well, it's pretty simple. Georgia, which I think is building its best defensive class in years. The only one that you can probably say that's rivals that would be the 2022 class. Georgia needs to get a couple more D linemen in this class, a couple more, maybe one additional safety and defensive back target in this class. But these back-to-back years of Georgia football recruiting, you have to say this is the best 2-year stretch. So how does Georgia counter what Bama did? Bama took the 2 highest-rated players in the state of Georgia in the 2023 cycle. Well, Georgia has a chance to take not the top 2, but the first and I believe the fourth or first and third. Those would be 2 5-stars out of the state of Alabama. That's Quay Russaw, who's going to have a new spot on the top targets this week. And it's also James Smith. If Georgia can go in and take Alabama, 2 Alabama 5-stars, it's kind of going to even out a little bit what Alabama, the reigning dynasty of college football, just did with Caleb Downs and Justice Haynes. Lots of opinions on here. I appreciate you guys sharing your opinions. There is a lot to talk about with that, and it's going to cause a lot of eyebrows to be raised for Alabama to come in there and do that with those 2 guys. We've got a new top targets list. I mean, I think we showed this graphic a second ago. Take a look because there have been a lot of changes since our last show on July the 13th. That was right before my vacation. Since our last show on July the 13th. Big changes. Georgia got 4 commitments. Jonell Aguero, Troy Bowles, Jamaal Jarrett, Kelton Smith. You kind of throw Raylan Wilson in there too. He was right before I left. 5 major targets. Those guys are all on the defensive side of the ball, except for Kelton Smith. Kelton Smith is actually the only one from the state of Georgia that committed. This is just a 2023 class. And then the 3 top target commits to Bama, Caleb Downs, Justice Haynes, and Olas Alinen. Now, I never really thought Olas Alinen was going to go to Georgia, but he did take an official visit to Georgia, and that was one of his final 5 schools. It has been eventful, and that means we really have a new and revamped, remodeled, remixed, whatever you want to say. Take a look at the new top targets list for the 2023 class. I believe this is version 8.4. Got a new number 1. The old number 1 was Jamaal Jarrett. Take a look at this right now. We are down to 8 of the top targets. Number 8 is Damon Wilson, the 5-star edge out of Venice, Florida. Might be Ohio State or Alabama there or Georgia there for him. Samuel Mpemba, he's going to be visiting Florida this weekend. He's going to give Georgia an official visit later in the year. Georgia continues to recruit him very well and recruit him very heavily. 4-star offensive lineman Monroe Freely. Now, this is a guy that does yoga. He has a 30-inch vertical leap. He is a madman on the basketball court with some reverse dunk action if you follow his social media. He's going to be in town in Athens this weekend with his family from the Isle of Palms in South Carolina. James Smith, that's the name I mentioned right there. James Smith, Carver High School, Montgomery, Alabama. Number 4, Hakeem Williams. Looks like Georgia, Texas A&M, and Miami will be the teams to watch there. Number 3, Quay Russaw. That was that guy we had there as the that's the 5-star in the state of Alabama, the linebacker, pass rusher. Him and James Smith still very likely to go play at the same school. It might even be an interest where one guy that feels very strongly about where they want to go basically swings the other guy because that's where they want to go. Number 2 is Tyler Williams. He's set to take an official visit to Ole Miss the first weekend in September. Then he will make his decision in late September. And the new number 1, I believe he moved up from maybe number 10 or 11 in last week's show. That was Jordan Big Baby Hall out of Westside High School in Jacksonville, Florida. Tremendous, incredible ball get off. That's another defensive lineman. Doesn't have his position right there, but that's another defensive lineman. One of those things I got to bring to mind here. This is what I wrote about today in the Caleb Downs story. Is you think about all the safeties of late Georgia has missed, and it's quite a collection. You've got James Williams in 2021. You've got 2022 Kamari Wilson. You've got Georgia went after Terrion Arnold in 2021. He's at Bama. He's now a corner at Bama, not a safety. But you think about what Georgia's had to do with safety. They saw Darren Branch transfer out. They saw Major Burns transfer out. Those were kind of their two safety prospects in the 2020 cycle. In the 2021 cycle, you did sign David Daniel. In 2022, you did not get Kamari Wilson. So that's why the point I was making is the Jonell Aguero, who's still a 5-star, folks. That get right there was fairly substantial when you combine where Georgia was trending with Caleb Downs. That's really the most prioritized safety that Georgia has went after that they were able to win. Now, what are the factors of that? I guess one, you had to look at Georgia transferring, kind of ripping through some defensive backs coaches from Charlton Warren to the 2021 cycle, 2022 to Jamil Adai, 2023 cycle now has Fran Brown. Fran Brown was also a big help for Georgia in the Yazid Haynes commitment today as well. But folks, everybody's going to wonder about Caleb Downs, and they're going to say, man, great safety. Aguero is no slouch, folks. Aguero probably pound for pound going to be as fast, going to be as hyper, going to be as aggressive. He's a guy that you look at him and you're like, he could play. He's got some cornerback metrics, quarterback speed, quarterback agility. He has a mentality of a linebacker, and he will play safety at the University of Georgia. And everybody, did they see his commitment announcement? Did they see his commitment ceremony? When Jonell Aguero announced on July the 23rd, he basically said, watch for it. He's going to be the best safety in the history of Georgia football. So very interesting there. I think our next slide we're going to look at right now, and we've had to condense something else. We've had to condense what the class looks like now because so many guys have came off the board. This is your new recruiting radar guys to look about. Randy Hall, that's a good question about preferred walk-ons. We're going to cover that a little bit. First of all, Javier Barnes, 4-year anniversary as a follower. Been following all things Dog Nation since it was just a podcast. Thank you so much. Thank you, Javier Barnes. Anybody else celebrating an anniversary today? We must do something sometime. I wish Restream could count how many shows you've caught or whatever. It kind of feel like the Peloton leaderboard or whatever. We can shout out people for how many shows and streams they've been a part of. Look right here. You got Tyree Adams, LSU there, Georgia there, Kelby Collins, a lot of Florida and Alabama there with Kelby Collins. 4-star wide receiver Anthony Evans III. He's actually on a cruise right now, folks, if you can believe that. Anthony Evans probably is going to come down to Georgia or Oklahoma. People are going to wonder what the Yazid Haynes decision is going to mean now. Is Georgia going to take up to 5 wide receivers if they go Raymond Cottrell, Yazid Haynes, perhaps Anthony Evans, Tyler Williams, and then Mr. Williams, Hakeem Williams out of South Florida. A lot of those guys. Connor Liu, you got right here. He is expected to make his decision on August the 5th. Jalen Hell's decision is coming up in late August. Cameron James, it feels like a Georgia-Florida battle there. Xavier McLeod, like I said, he was visiting Athens this weekend. LSU, Michigan, Georgia, South Carolina there. Caden McDonald, that's a name that's going to get very interesting because folks are going to wonder with McDonald, because Clemson is another team that's on McDonald's radar a whole lot. And Clemson has really loaded up on the defensive lineman in this class as well. Samson Okunalola, that's the terrific 5-star pancake honcho offensive tackle. I think Georgia still gets an official visit from there. 4-star cornerback Chris Peel. Chris Peel is going to take some official visits early in September. I think he wants to check out Michigan. I think he wants to check out South Carolina and NC State. He also has already taken his official visit to Georgia. Things went very well on that visit. You see TJ Shanahan there. A lot of noise and smoke there with Shanahan and Texas A&M right now. And then Aiden Williams is another wide receiver to watch out of Mississippi. I see some folks talk. All right, there. We're still there. My screen went blank. Did anybody else's screens go blank? You see some folks talking about running back, where's the running backs? I think, there's a couple of guys that Georgia will target in this class. I think one of them is actually, a couple of the guys that they're looking at are currently committed to other schools. So that would be a flip situation there. But I will say this. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but what I've heard, ear to the grind a little bit. I've heard folks that not only I'm just going to say Andrew Paul has looked pretty stinking good. The running back signee that Georgia took out of Texas late in the 2022 cycle. Andrew Paul is the type of player you're hearing the type of things where folks might even be as encouraged or even more encouraged by what they've seen out of Paul early on than even the fantastic Branson Robinson. One of those things that's coming out right now is you're having a lot of you're seeing a lot of guys that are sending out pictures. Georgia's finishing up their summer workouts. I think practice starts next Thursday. Can you guys believe we're almost there to practice next Thursday? Crazy to think about. I think we got one more slide I want to show you guys because I know everybody's going to focus on Haynes. Everybody's going to focus on Downs. Take a look at this slide right here. This is where Georgia, the snapshot, this is where Georgia has came in the month of July. Like I stated before, our last show was on July the 13th. Our last show was on July the 13th. And at that time, let me see. Let's keep going. Keep reading downfield. Keep reading downfield. We've got keep going. Get to our first receiver, go to our second receiver, go to our third receiver. We're going through our progressions right here. Anyway, guys, I promise you we've got a graphic. We've got a graphic that shows Georgia was number 9 in the country back on July the 13th. That was before I took off for my vacation. And then right now, Georgia is number 3 in the country. That's what all of those big commitments will do. There you go. Breaking down the class. There's now 18. Look at that. 10 on defense, 7 on offense, 6 in-state. Perhaps one of the most alarming things to look at here is out of state, 12 out-of-state commitments, 6 in-state commitments, 2 5-star commits, 2 top 50 commits, 6 top 100 commits, and 9 top 150 commits. 13 of those guys are in the SEC footprint. 5 are now outside of the SEC footprint. Here's a ratio. I kind of thought this was going to be like a plus-minus ratio that Georgia was going to have to deal with. They needed to have more dudes that play offense among their highest-rated commits in this class. And right now, the only offensive player among Georgia's 5 highest-rated commitments would be Pierce Sperling III. I believe he's the number 76 overall prospect, the number 2 tight end. The rest of those highest-rated commitments are all on the defensive side of the ball. Interesting to take a look at right there. Got some tweets I want to show you as well. Things that kind of popped out to my eyes over the last couple of days. We talked about a few things. We talked about Georgia with getting some good work on in the offensive line class. Some good work in the preferred walk-on class. They got a long snapping legacy. One of the things I wanted to show you guys, a long snapping legacy. Everybody who remembers? Let's see how well you guys know your dogs. Who remembers Paul Snellings? Does everybody remember Paul Snelling, the former defensive lineman? Who remembers Paul Snelling? One of those guys that played on the defensive line for Georgia. I believe he was in the 90s. His son basically found the back door to college football, which is the long snapper position. Now, he's a heck of a linebacker for, I believe, Whitewater High School in Georgia. And he maybe picked up long snapping maybe not even a year ago. And he has gotten a preferred walk-on offer to long snap at the University of Georgia. Look at him right there. Will Snellings, the son of Paul Snellings. You've got, look at that. He's a guy that, Georgia loves to have these preferred walk-ons in the program. And really what you do is you long snap, you earn the long snapping job, and then they give you the scholarship for 3 or 4 years as a long snapper. You see what Georgia's doing with him, and then Peyton Woodring at kicker. They're always working their specialists in every class. Will Snellings. I had a question for Dog Fan for Life B. Yes, that does include the newest commitment there. They now have 18 commitments. Really, I don't think they actually have 18 commitments for reasons we've kind of went on in our show right now. That's right, Mike. You're telling me to get that fan on. That's right. I'm sitting here roasting and broiling. Hugh Nash, it's really a good story about long snappers because, I mean, really, you think about it, this young man is, I think, 6'2", 215. He's a pretty stinking good all-region caliber linebacker in Georgia high school football. It's not small school football. And he figured it out. He's figured it out that, you know, he may not be 6'5", he may not run a 4.4, but the way you can go play at Georgia is you can pick up that skill of long snapping. And I think Will has a pretty cool way of looking at it. He looks at himself, he calls himself an upside-down quarterback. Does everybody understand that? An upside-down quarterback, the way he snaps the ball like that. I'm sure Paul was quite proud to see his son, Will, committed to the G. That's one thing I thought I saw this week that stood out to me in terms of what's going on in a couple of tweets-wise we've seen lately. This is a guy right here, folks. You just got to love this young man. You got to love this player. You got to know everything he represents and tries to be about. This is Tyler Williams. We've told his story before on Before the Hedges and on the pages of dognation.com. He was a third-string quarterback that did not play in his spring game heading into his junior year. He switched to wide receiver right before his junior season. I think he caught 5 touchdowns in his first game. 3 of them counted. He's now an All-American. He's perhaps as big a target for Georgia left as anyone in the class. I've just got Jordan Big Baby Hall at number 1 because Jordan Big Baby Hall is a guy that has those type of Jalen Carter type tendencies to his game. I'm not saying he's Jalen Carter. I don't think he's running a 4.65 like Jalen Carter will when he gets to the NFL Combine. 4.6, low 4.6. But look at this right here. Love players like this. Forever thankful. Last year around this time, nobody knew my name. That's Tyler Williams out of Lakeland, Florida. That's in between Tampa and Orlando. And he is the number 2 top target right now for Before the Hedges and for Dog Nation for the class of 2023. Great story there. One of the things we talked about earlier, Connor Liu, this is out of Kennesaw Mountain. His decision day is coming up on August the 5th. He's a center. It's Miami, Auburn, Clemson, and Georgia. Does Georgia get a center in this class? What does Georgia's offensive line class looks like? I think if Georgia can finish out the offensive line class with either Freeling or Okunalola, of course, either one of those two, those guys are terrific football players, type of players Georgia usually signs in every cycle, especially when they got room on the depth chart. And then you've got this tweet right here. I thought this was really interesting. Big Bear Alexander is not so big Bear anymore. I think he was about 340, 350. He played last year. In his high school season. He enrolled early in Georgia. He had shoulder surgery. I think I've shared that story with you guys before, that he basically played his entire senior year at IMG Academy with a really banged up shoulder. He had surgery on his shoulder once he got to Georgia. And that weight training and strength conditioning has really done him right. Probably around 305, 315, somewhere in that range right there. And folks, his ball get off is going to be wow. I think that's a before-after picture right there. Big Bear Alexander has really slimmed it down. He's not as big a bear as he used to be. Kind of like what I put on social media. I think Big Bear is going to have a jetpack underneath his pads, and that should be great to see for Georgia fans, him trying to make an impact early in his true freshman season at the University of Georgia. Another one to think about right now is I think we've got one more. We got all the top targets. I think that was it. You guys have any questions? Feel free to fire them out right now. If you guys got a question, let's be sure to talk about it. And yes, guys, bear with me. I have a runny nose. We're all friends here. I'm sure you guys would rather have me watch me get the Kleenex action out on my nose rather than sniffle all through the program, right? Got it. Ken Feinberg, yeah. I would imagine that most of the commitments are going to be at the cookout this weekend. Monroe Freeling is going to be at the cookout. I don't know if Big Baby Hall will be staying or Xavier McLeod will be staying. Um, but those are really it's really a 2024 weekend and a 2023 weekend. Be very interesting. I think the names everyone would want to see, and we can't report that yet, is what does Quay Rousseau do? What does Tyler Williams do? What does Hakeem Williams do? What do those guys do? Did they show up at the cookout? Of course, if they do wind up in Athens, then that's going to be pretty stinking cool for a lot of people to think about. James Leonard Brown, right now, there are two commitments in the 2024 class. Those are both in-state prospects. So what goes through my mind, Ken, and I saw the question from Brian Marcouli as well. Um, what goes through my mind about what's going on with the in-state recruiting? 6 guys from the in-state, really just 5 guys in-state, actually, when you look at it. And then you've got 12 guys out of state. You start wondering, what's going on there? Is Georgia again prioritizing that national target or that regional target or that 5-star target over a very good football player in their backyard? Sometimes the evaluations are like that. But when you look to the 2024 class, Georgia has a top 10 wide receiver and they have a number 1 tight end in the country. Both of those guys are out of the 2024 cycle. Guys, thank you for all the well wishes here. And it's kind of funny. I mean, you don't sit there all day, you do your work, you write your stories, and you don't sit there and prepare. Okay, what's it going to sound like when I get on my back deck and start talking for 40 minutes straight? You don't know what's going to happen there. You try to take an antihistamine before, but sometimes, guys, the show has to go on. Has to go on. Yeah, Mike Brown, appreciate that. Thank you. That's what's going on. You guys have another question? Michael Clayton has a question with offensive players. Michael, I don't think it's that. I mean, they've got Pierce Sperling. He's a top 100 overall prospect. Raymond Cottrell is a top 100, number 103 overall prospect. Bo Hughley's a top 100 overall prospect. The 3 offensive players they got, anybody would take those guys. Those are all really, really good football players. It's just kind of the momentum. What's going to happen at wide receiver? What's happening at running back now? I think with a lot of cases, Georgia has really looked at just 2 running backs. That would be Richard Young and Justice Haynes. Same thing with the quarterback. It'd be very interesting to see what happens there going forward. And really, it's kind of what I've tried to write about since I got back. Really, what you see here is, people thought that the national championship and the draft picks would allow Georgia to grow its program, to expand, and to get those 5-star wide receivers, the quarterbacks. But we didn't see that last year. That was kind of a leap. You saw defense. You saw 5 guys picked in the first round. You saw Georgia suffocating teams on a week-to-week basis. I think the one stat, which I think should stand for all time with the 2021 season, is I think there were 7 weeks of SEC play. 7 weeks of SEC play where I think Georgia gave up 5 touchdowns on offense. Never going to see that stuff in conference play anymore. Tiffany Ard has a question about Raquez McElderry. I don't see him flipping back to Georgia. I think once he decommitted from Georgia, he chose the Tide. That's where he was going to be. It's funny. Love all the comments. Love all the jokes. Keep them coming. We are going to have a fun show here tonight, regardless. It's not how I say it. It's probably what I say that really matters. I know a guy named Larry and worked for a guy named Larry when I was a college intern. And he used to say, he used to comment on how his voice was not super smooth and silky for a broadcaster, but he did all right. He did all right. If I can do 1/1,000,000th of a job here, working through some sniffles on our show, then we'll be all right. Question from Woodstock. Woodstock, an update on saying. So another name. I'm glad you jogged my memory on that. I expect Jaden Davis to be the 4-star quarterback out of Charlotte, North Carolina, to be at the Georgia Cookout this weekend. It's kind of funny. I had a conversation with Jaden recently, and this hasn't even showed up on the site yet. but he kind of felt when he visited Georgia for the scavenger hunt, he kind of felt that Arch Manning might choose Georgia. He kind of felt that, that was not going to be his thing. Georgia wasn't going to be a fit. So then when Arch chooses Texas, that kind of increases his interest in Georgia. He said that he feels like things have ratcheted up with him in Georgia. You've got Julian Sayin as well. Some of the reports coming out about Julian Sayin, and I'll tell you, he told me himself he was looking to make his decision October-ish. He had looked to move things up. Be very curious to see if that holds up. Because right now, folks, things are getting really crazy with NIL, especially in the state of California. You can't be a seasoned reporter, an objective reporter looking at things NIL in the state of California, where these guys can sign deals right now. They can hire a marketing group, they can hire an agent, they can sign deals, they can receive payment, because that's all legal under the California High School Association. And you got to look at what Rashada did, Jaden Rashada, the Miami commitment. You got to look at what Nico Amaliva did. You got to look at what Malachi Nelson did. All those guys, quarterbacks, all those guys getting big NIL deals coming out of the state of California. Excuse me. Again, apologize for that. Let me see. Jason Bowen has a question. Do I believe that Georgia can flip any players that have committed to other teams like we did with Big Bear when he decided to go to Texas A&M? Jason, I'm going to combine a couple of questions. I think that's probably what's going to happen with Georgia with the running back position. Lots of questions coming through. Appreciate that. Good stuff there. How many spots are left? I think there's 11 spots left at least. Depends on what happens with Georgia in the portal. Depends on what happens with Georgia and the 2023 NFL draft. Georgia usually finds out those things about who's going to go pro when they start figuring out their numbers, like in November. Joel Mooney has a good point. He says, I think you play to your team's strengths, run the football, and play great defense. It worked last year. Raphael, I still think there are a couple. Be very interesting, Samuel Burson, to see what's going on with Juju Lewis at Carrollton High School. Bright future. I've seen him compete a lot. I've seen him at freshman All-American games. He's working with some of the best young quarterbacks in the game right now, Justin Fields, Deshaun Watson, on and on and on. Malik Willis, very talented young man. He's going to get the reins at Carrollton High School. Jaden Davis. Well, the one thing about Jaden Davis is Georgia was his first offer. He's always going to remember the Dogs as his first offer. You know what, guys? I think what's happening with Jaden Davis, I had this conversation with him, and it's like he had his, it's almost like you're playing poker in Vegas, and you're like, or blackjack. You got all your cards. You're like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit. I'm going to double down. I'm going to insurance. I'm going to stay. And then all of a sudden, right when you're starting to make your move, the cards change. That's what's happened for Jaden Davis. I can think of maybe 2 or 3 times where I thought Jaden Davis was going to go to X school or Y school, and then things change. So I think Jaden Davis would welcome. First of all, he was very candid, and he said this stuff is very stressful, especially for a quarterback. And he would just really welcome a school that says, you know what, you're our guy. Be our guy. We want you to be our guy. You're the only quarterback we want. We didn't take a guy in 2023. Come be our guy. And I think that's what he wants to hear from the right type of program. Antoine Sampson, there's no flipping of Downs and Haynes. Please just let them be. Yeah, I don't think those guys are flipping. I think you said it perfectly. Lots of questions, guys. Hey, one thing before I forget, before the Hedges show, man, it might be the latest time I ever did this. Good thing that there's the Kroger logo right there. Before the Hedges is brought to you by Kroger. Right now, through the end of summer, you got summer grilling at Kroger. Gear up for grilling, turn up the heat and the flavor with new favorites for every dish over the summer. Kroger has you covered for all your outside entertaining needs. Visit your local Kroger today or Kroger.com/summer grilling. There you go, guys. One of the things to look for tomorrow, there'll be a morning boost tomorrow, kind of talking about Georgia recruiting and other things. Brought to you by Kroger. Everybody knows about the morning boost by Kroger, right? That's the $59 plan where you can save up to $1 per gallon on your gas. Shane Daniel. Hey Shane, good question. Appreciate the question. I do see Georgia landing some of the top 10 uncommitted edge rushers. I mean, really, it really Rousseau, Pemba, and Wilson. Those three, where the other two go, will dictate. They're not all going to go to the same spot, I don't think. Not even two of the three will go to the same spot, I don't think, at least not right now. And you would kind of see the big three: Ohio State getting one, Georgia getting one, and Bama getting one. Let me tell you this, guys. Let me see the new commit today. I think if anybody saw the story on DogNation.com, excuse me, anybody saw the story on DogNation.com today, folks? I should probably start plugging antihistamine right now for Kroger right now. But anybody saw the story on DogNation.com, I got to give you about a minute and a half on Yazeed Haynes. Yazeed Haynes, first of all, 4.39 hand timed. I think he broad jumped 10-10. To put that into perspective, Lewis Seen only ran a 4.37 and broad jumped 11-1 at the NFL Combine. That's the type of athlete he is. He could be a defensive back. Penn State actually liked him as a defensive back. Georgia likes him more as a receiver. Blistering speed. He was committed once to Rutgers, and he was committed once to Penn State. He believes this is his final commitment to Georgia. He's from Philadelphia. He got some great intel on the Georgia program from Darren Swift. Excuse me. That's the father of former Georgia great running back DeAndre Swift. Everything about Georgia when he took his official visit on June the 24th kind of opened up his eyes. He just liked Georgia. He's a business major. He wants to own his own business one day. He's a very smart young man. He thinks about the connection of getting a Georgia degree from the state of Georgia. And then, let's face it, if you play ball at Georgia, you play well at Georgia, you're a great at DGD at Georgia. You graduate, maybe get your NFL time. Once that is over, if you got a degree from the University of Georgia and you want to make a thriving career or business in Atlanta, he understands the dollars and cents of all that. Really enjoyed getting a chance to talk to Yazeed recently. He's a 4-star on Rivals. He's a 3-star on On3 and also the 24/7 Sports Composite. Is he finished product? No. I think he's got a decent skills. Of course, you've got that speed. I like his releases probably more than anything. His route running is not too bad. I think the hands, you kind of see what's going on there, and that's kind of why his ratings are what they are. He is a 3.4 GPA, but a weighted 4.2 GPA. Really a burner. I think it's really interesting, guys. This is a year where Georgia actually has two we can't call them flips, but they were almost flips. They got Joshua Doogie Miller and then both Yazeed Haynes, recent one-time Penn State commitments, decommit, and then choose the Dogs. There are your top remaining targets in the class. You got a Big Baby. What's going to happen if Georgia can sign a Big Baby and pair him next to a Big Bear? Tyler Williams, Quay Rousseau, Hakeem Williams, James Smith, Monroe Freeling, Samuel Mpemba, and Damon Wilson. I don't think Georgia can go 8 for 8 there. If anybody does, maybe you need to can give a really convincing reason why. Maybe you need your show on Wednesday night before the Hedges brought to you and sponsored to you by Kroger. I'm going to give you this. This is the part of our show. I'm going to create our show. It's just going to be called Aladdin's Lamp or Uga's Lamp. I'm letting you rub the magic lamp, and you can get 3 names off that board. 3 names off that board. Michael, if you could pull that name up one more time. Which 3 names do you want to see Georgia add to this 2023 recruiting class? Peaches, she says she wants some dogs. She wants some dogs. That's what she says when she barks a lot right there. Let's look at that thing right now. You got some big names. I think I'll just say it. The 3 probably most impactful signees that Georgia can get out of that top 8, I think it's Tyler and then it's Hakeem. You know I was going to say those two, and I could be very coy. That's a word. That's a good word. I can be very coy and say, well, Quay Russaw. Because if you get Quay Russaw, you're still more than likely going to get James Smith without using one of your wishes. See what I did right there? Found a way to get 4 out of 3. Making a little more out of less. That's what it's all about here at dognation.com. I think Wilson or Pimba would be fantastic. Georgia gets one of those 3 guys, and they pair him with what they got in the 2022 class with Darius Smith. Man, I got a lot of stock, a lot of receipts in Darius Smith, Marvin Jones Jr., and then Mikael Williams. Those 3 pass rushers right there. If Georgia can add, Gabe Harris is another guy, that 2023 commitment out of Valdosta, changing up his game, looking a lot better, coming from Thomas County Central to Valdosta High. That's a guy that I think is probably, even though he's rated at 118, 120 in the country, that's a guy I think is probably a 70 overall prospect at the least. Monroe Freeling, that's a great-looking left tackle. Like I said earlier, very athletic, nimble. He's about 300 pounds, maybe 280, 290. He does yoga on game days. His mom is a yoga instructor. Got a 30-inch vertical. But if you can get those three names, I mean, you got to do this. You got to go heavy on the offensive side of the ball, right? You just have to. You got to get Tyler. You got to get Hakeem. And then all of a sudden, Georgia's offensive class, I'm going to tell you, Tyler Williams and Hakeem Williams are the type of guys that will be picked at least as high as George Pickens was in the 2022 draft. All right, guys, that has been Before the Hedges. That has been a few Between the Sniffles or whatever. I'm Jeff Sintel. I'm your host on Before the Hedges. We do this every Wednesday night, except when Jeff's on vacation and everything else like that. For all of you guys, thanks for stopping by. This has been a crazy month of Georgia football recruiting. It's my job to kind of be the steward or the shepherd to guide us all through that. Thanks again for stopping by. I'm Jeff Sintel. That has been your intel. Everybody be well. God bless everybody out there, and we'll see you guys again on the pages of dognation.com. Have a great, great week, everybody. We'll see you later.